I just wanted to say welcome to you all. For those of you who are joining us for Vespers for the first time, I'd like to give you a little introduction. It is just a midweek spiritual check-in. It is a way to fill our spirit and kind of take a deep breath, and especially for those of you who are working or have been on tons of calls or been, looking at the internet, you have to do nothing for Vespers. Well, except for you, Carrie. Sorry. You're still working. But the rest of you, I really want you, I hope that this nourishes you a little bit. We are in some really extraordinary times. And I know we preached about the vote. And one of the things that we're trying to do with Vespers is take some of the themes that we're exploring during the week, things that we're exploring in meditation on Monday, or the lunch with the minister on Wednesday, or, throughout the week in conversations with each other, and trying to tie that together and Vespers as well. And this week's been a doozy, and I just think with 40 some days until the election, it's going to get weirder, not calmer. And I think I'm torn as your minister between just encouraging people to get out and vote and doing what you can, but then on the other hand saying, oh, my dear ones, please protect your heart and please turn off the news and try to take care of yourself, because the assault that's happening on our democracy and in our hearts is sometimes too much to take. I think with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Friday just was, a really difficult blow for a lot of us. And some of you, I don't know, that are entrenched in what's happening in UU circles, but there's a position called the moderator in Unitarian Universalism, and that person is the facilitator for the board and facilitates our business meetings at General Assembly, and really has a very important role. And for the last 3 years, it's been co-moderated by Alondria Williams, a 41-year-old dynamic Black, non-binary, absolutely amazing woman. And we got news yesterday that Alondria died during a simple heart procedure.
Oh.
And it's a great, great loss to Unitarian Universalism. We're so sad, and it's just on the heels of so many things that are hard already. That was a really tough one to take. And I say this because I'm also going to immerse you in a little bit of Unitarian Universalism tonight. Our denomination put together a full worship service for UU the Vote. They released it on Tuesday. Of course, that meant that it was after the service that I did on Sunday, so I couldn't use any of it. But I thought that there were some really great pieces in it that you all might enjoy this evening. So to inspire you, to give you comfort, to motivate you. And there is a familiar face in Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, who is giving the key message. So I know for those of you who are new, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray is the president of our denomination, and she was the previous called minister of UUCP. So that will be a wonderful, wonderful treat. So I invite you all to mute yourselves. If you're not muted, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and to sit back and relax. We're going to have some music performed by Amanda Thomas, who is the music director of the UU congregation in Chicago. and then a couple other voices. And in between, as long as my internet holds up, I'll give you a little bit of words in between. But we'll start with Amanda. But please feel free to turn off your video and sit back and enjoy. Carol lit a chalice. Thank you for that. And enjoy this music and this bit of worship. Go for it, Carrie.
Please join me in singing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. You can change the world with your love. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give. To the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. You can change the world with your love.
Thank you, Amanda. And I invite you to settle in to a moment of prayer led by Michael Slack, who is in charge of Black Lives of UU, and then a message by Susan Frederick Gray.
May I be light in you. May you be light in me. Into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you. May you be love in me. From this place out to the world for all time. Spirit of life, sources of all that ever was and can be, we are guided by all that is sacred within our own hearts and minds to pray this prayer and to live this prayer. We offer up this simple and profound hope that we may be light, give light, and receive light in all the places we call home and in this sacred space that reaches across miles and experiences. That we may be love, give love, and receive love out in the world. May we never forget the impact and power of our voices. May we never lose sight of the songs in our hearts. D. Blanchard reminds us that they can be heard as songs of love or of longing, songs of encouragement or of comfort, songs of struggle or of security and care. But most of all, they are the songs of life, giving testimony to what has been, giving praise for all we're given, giving hope for all we strive for, and giving voice to the great mystery that carries each of us in and out of this world. Today, we hear those songs in all the ways we are learning and growing as communities of faith, hope, and love. We hear them as little ones become young ones. We hear them as loved ones pass from this. We hear them in the streets and at our polling places as people of faith and conscience pave the way for a better world, a better understanding, deeper care and accountability. And we hear them in the silences, a deep awareness that there are those among us as yet unheard and unaccounted for. May we never, ever forget the impact and the power of our voices. May we never, ever lose sight of the songs in our hearts. May grace and mercy follow us wherever we may go, whatever we feel called to and toward in the days and weeks ahead. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be.
I was 13 years old when I became a Unitarian Universalist. I was raised in this faith, but I was 13 when I claimed it as my own. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was waiting for my parents to finish their committee meetings after service. All the other kids had left, and I was bored. I wandered into the visitor's corner, and a little red wallet card caught my eye. It said in bold letters on the front, "What do Unitarian Universalists believe?" My 13-year-old self wondered, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? As I read the 10 statements written by the Reverend David O. Rankin, in my heart, in my soul, as I read those words, I said, yes, this is what I believe. One phrase in particular planted itself in me like the deepest truth, and I never forgot it. We believe in the motive force of love. It was in that moment when I knew that this was my religion. I start with this story to ground the work of UU the Vote in our theology, which is its foundation and its inspiration. This year marks the 250th anniversary of what we celebrate as the beginning of Universalism in the United States. It was on September 30th, 1770, that Universalist John Murray preached his first sermon on this continent. And the truth that I read in that little red wallet card, the truth I've never forgotten, is the message of Universalism. 250 years ago, in the context of religious notions of God rooted in punishment, damnation, and the division of humanity between worthy and unworthy, saved and damned, the idea of universal salvation, that God's love is unconditional, that no one is cast out, and that salvation is not individual but collective, was radical and liberating. Universalism proclaimed that humanity was bound together in a common destiny, and that love is the thread that binds each of us to the other and everyone to creation. Universalists believe that God is love. They also believed in hell. They just believed that it existed here and now on the earth. The great Universalist preacher Hosea Ballou was clear about how politicians and those in power used fear, stoked fear, to protect their greed and corruption and self-interest, and he knew the suffering that resulted from that. Rather than speak of theology in terms of speculative notions of God, Ballou spoke of it in terms of human experience here and now and our relationships to each other. A society that lives out the motive force of love would be one that fosters joy and liberation and thriving for all people. This is the highest calling of our faith as Unitarian Universalists, to live out, defend, and embrace this motive force of love in our lives, in our actions, in our commitments, and in our society. This is why UU the Vote says vote love. Today, in our context, we are witnessing the emboldening and authorization of ideologies rooted not in love and interdependence, but in domination, authoritarianism, and dehumanization. And just to be clear, this is not new. It has a long and deadly history on this continent, going back more than 400 years. And yes, even our Universalist ancestors came from that same lineage of Christian European conquest and limited the vision of universalism only to white society, a limit that we are still trying to redeem ourselves from. It is dehumanization that creates systems that put children in cages, that deny health care to our transgender siblings, that allow police violence and the murder of Black people to continue unabated and without accountability. Dehumanization that allows triage protocols that devalue the lives of disabled people and that lead to systemic divestment from communities, the resources from housing to education, healthcare to jobs, and the criminalization of poverty. Just as Hosea Ballou named it, the tool of dehumanization, its propaganda, is fear. Propaganda that tells us to fear our neighbor, that we are not family and kin, but enemies. This is the exact opposite of our theology of universalism that tells us that we have a common destiny and we are connected to one another in love. This is why UU the Vote says vote love, defeat hate. And while the forces of dehumanization and domination have always been a part of U.S. history, so too have been those who have resisted and organized for the values of dignity, equity, humanity, and love. These days are heartbreaking, they're infuriating, and they're frightening. On days when I lose my own strength, I turn to the words of Alice Walker, who reminds us, we remember our ancestors because it is an easy thing to forget, that we are not the first to suffer, rebel, fight, love, and die. The grace with which we embrace life in spite of the pain and the sorrow is always a measure of what has gone before us. We remember our ancestors, theological, familial, and in movement. We remember Francis, Ellen Watkins Harper, Hosea Ballou, John Brown, Sitting Bull, Ida B. Wells, Dr. King, Anne Braden, and so many more whose names history does not remember. Those who struggled and risked and fought and loved for the principles of justice, equity, liberty. This is why in UU the Vote, we say vote love, we say defeat hate, because, dear ones, we are on a precipice. Every single one of our most deeply held values is on the line right now. The current powers in government are showing in everything they do that the inherent worth and dignity of so many immigrants, Black people, disabled folks, trans and queer people does not matter to them. Human agency, interdependence, the democratic process are being disrupted and defiled daily. It is a radical act of faith to not only continue to believe in all of our cherished principles, but to demand them by speaking out, taking risks, organizing, leveraging our resources, and building networks of solidarity and power to protect one another and these values. We are on a precipice, and our actions right now will affect whether we have a chance to continue to bring our bold values forward, to rebuild, expand, and strengthen our democracy, to confront police violence, to upend racial inequity, to change divestment from communities, and make moves to protect the climate. Now is the time to draw on the grace, the courage, and the strength of all those who went before, to widen our comfort zones, and to do all we can to vote love and defeat hate. If you haven't taken any form of action yet, sign up for a shift with UU the Vote. I can tell you that it's fun. And if you've written postcards to voters, but you feel nervous about phone banking, do it with your fellow UUs. And if you've been all in with UU the Vote from the beginning, keep it up and start planning for how you will show up and organize after November 3rd. Because democracy will not be restored in one election. It's been under systemic attack for decades, and justice will not roll down like waters in one election. Voting matters. It's absolutely critical, but it is not the end. It is just one piece of the long haul work of organizing for a future where all are free and where all can thrive. Will you show up in the streets, set up to contribute to a bail or legal assistance fund, open your church building to protesters needing refuge from state repression, tap into your own endowment or discretionary funds to make sure that grassroots organizers have the funds they need for their work? There is so much to do, and our faith calls us to love more radically, to give more generously, to believe more fervently that another world is possible, and be willing to be all in for that future. As you've heard me say many times before, this is no time for a casual faith. No time for a casual commitment to what you hold most dear. And this is no time to go it alone. Friends, we are in this work together. I invite you to be deeper in this work of UU the Vote with us. May we remember that we are held by love always. May we remember that we are held by and with one another. And may we all together be all in today, tomorrow, next month, and next year, for justice, for love, for democracy, and for a future that is free and thriving for all people. May it be so.
A lot to take in. It's a lot riding on this. And I know I've heard from so many of you who are in places of deep worry, high anxiety. And so one of the things I want to hold the tension between what Susan was saying and how important this is, but also what Michael said and how we need to be grounded in love and how we need to hold our hearts during this time. And I'm going to tell you, for me, some days it is about we need to act. And then there's some times where I have to put that down and I say, I need to take care of my heart. And then I pick up I need to act. And then I put it down and I take care of the heart part. And what I want to encourage you to do is find that right balance for you. I want you to think about what you need to do to protect your hearts and guard them and make sure you are still coming to and from a place of love in this time. It can be too hard. It can be very easy to get caught up in fear and anxiety. But that's just playing that game, right? That's the game that they are wanting us to play. And you all know who the theys that I'm talking about are. So turn off the news. Turn it off. Step away from it. Step outside. Pick up a book. It will still be there, I promise you. And find things that you are grateful for in your life and find all of the things that you love. Make a list of them and worship at those a little bit. Make sure you hold that heart. I want to thank you for joining us for Vespers. This is a little bit untraditional, but these resources were here from the UU and I wanted to use them. And thank you again, Carrie and Johnny, for doing tech support. I wasn't sure how my internet would work. Thank you. And we're going to leave you with one more song from Amanda Thomas as we send you out on your way. And my beloveds, take care of yourself. And Benji will be preaching on Sunday. It's going to be wonderful. And I'll be joining you as we cheer him on as well. Much love to you.
Please join me in hymn number 1017, Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, our world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Thank you all. Blessings. Good night. Have a great evening.